Dark Secrets of Elm Street. Sarah adjusted her glasses, rereading the cryptic email for the 10th time. I have proof of something big. Meet me at 9 p.m. Warehouse on Elm Street. Come alone. Trust no one. The message was simple, yet chilling. An anonymous source reaching out like this wasn't unusual in her line of work. As an investigative journalist, she had uncovered local corruption, exposed hidden scandals, and stepped on more than a few powerful toes. But something about this email unsettled her. The sender's email address was untraceable, just a jumble of letters and numbers. No name, no previous contact. Whoever they were, they wanted to stay hidden. Sarah drummed her fingers against her desk, glancing at the time. 8:17 p.m. She had a choice to make. Logic told her to ignore it. It could be a prank or worse, a trap. But her gut told her it was real. She had spent years following her instincts, and they had never failed her. Decision made, she packed her essentials, a flashlight, recorder, and a small pocket knife. She slipped her phone into her coat pocket but turned off the GPS. If this was dangerous, she didn't want to be traced. The night was still, the kind of quiet that made everything feel more ominous. Streetlights flickered as she walked, casting long, eerie shadows on the pavement. The town had always felt small, suffocating at times, but tonight, it felt like the walls were closing in. As she neared Elm Street, the warehouse loomed ahead. It was old, rusted, and forgotten, sitting on the edge of town like a relic from another time. Vines crawled up its metal walls, and the faint scent of damp wood filled the air. Sarah hesitated. The large metal door groaned as she pushed it open, revealing a cavernous space. Dust particles floated in the air, illuminated by the dim moonlight streaming through shattered windows. She stepped inside, her footsteps echoing. Then, a noise. A soft shuffle, barely noticeable but enough to send a chill down her spine. She reached into her coat pocket, gripping her knife. "Hello," she called, her voice steady. For a moment, silence. Then a figure emerged from the shadows, a thin man in his 30s, wearing a wrinkled jacket and jeans. His dark eyes darted toward the door as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. "You're Sarah?" he whispered. "Who are you?" she asked, keeping her distance. "You have no idea what you're getting into," he said, voice barely audible. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive, pressing it into her hand. She frowned. "What's on this?" He opened his mouth to answer. But headlights flooded through the broken windows. Tires screeched outside. His face went pale. "They found me," he hissed. Panic shot through Sarah as he bolted toward the back exit, disappearing into the night. She wanted to stop him, ask more questions, demand answers, but something about the sheer terror in his eyes made her freeze. Moments later, he was gone. She tightened her grip on the flash drive. Then, she heard it. The low rumble of an engine. Turning toward the front, she saw it. A black SUV idling just beyond the warehouse doors, its tinted windows concealing whoever was inside. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Had they seen her? Had they seen him? Heart hammering, she stepped back into the shadows, pressing herself against the cold metal wall. She forced herself to breathe slowly, waiting, listening. The SUV didn't move. Were they waiting for him? Watching for her? She couldn't stay. She had what she came for. With careful steps, she slipped through the side entrance, emerging onto a darkened alleyway. She didn't run, didn't look back, just kept walking, as if she belonged there, as if nothing had happened. Only when she was 3 blocks away did she let herself breathe. She had to find out what was on this drive. And fast. Back at her apartment, Sarah locked the door behind her, her hands still shaking. She sat at her desk, inserting the flash drive into her laptop. Her screen flickered for a moment before a single folder appeared. Project Helix, Confidential. She clicked it open. Inside were dozens of documents, encrypted files, and a series of grainy images. She skimmed the text. Government contracts, private military operations, high-level corporate transactions. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just corruption. This was a conspiracy. She clicked on a video file. The screen showed a dimly lit office, security footage time-stamped 2 weeks ago. A group of men sat around a table, discussing something in hushed tones. One of them looked familiar, Senator Alan Kendrick, a powerful figure known for his ties to major defense companies. Sarah leaned closer, increasing the volume. "We need this to stay contained," Kendrick said. "No leaks. If anyone finds out what we've been funding, we're all dead." Another man wearing a corporate suit nodded. We've already handled the journalist. The whistleblower is next. Sarah's blood ran cold. They weren't just covering up fraud, they were eliminating anyone who got too close. She clicked on another file, a list of names, some crossed out. Her breath caught in her throat. The whistleblower was the man she met tonight, and at the bottom of the list, her own name. Her phone vibrated, a blocked number. She hesitated before answering. Hello. Silence. Then, you shouldn't have taken the drive, Sarah. A chill ran down her spine. Who is this? She demanded. A low chuckle. You already know. Click. The line went dead. Her hands clenched into fists. This wasn't over. It was just beginning the next move. Sarah knew she had limited time. She encrypted the files, sending them to her trusted contact, a former CIA analyst turned whistleblower advocate. Then she wiped the drive clean. Packing a small bag, she grabbed her essentials. She couldn't stay at her apartment, not now. As she stepped into the night, she noticed something in the distance. The same black SUV, parked down the street, watching, waiting. Sarah pulled up her hood, inhaling deeply. Then she walked the other way, disappearing into the city. She wasn't running, she was preparing for war. Sarah shut her apartment door, locking it behind her. She placed the flash drive on her desk, staring at it as if it might reveal its secrets on its own. Her heart still pounded from the night's events, the trembling man, the black SUV, the weight of the unknown pressing down on her. With a deep breath, she turned on her laptop and plugged in the flash drive. A folder popped up. Inside were several encrypted files and a single video labeled WatchMe.fmp4. She hesitated. Then, she clicked play. The screen flickered to life. A grainy recording, a dark alley, a single dim streetlight casting shadows over two figures. One of them she recognized immediately. Richard Hale, a wealthy businessman known for his charitable donations and strong community ties. A man admired by Fairview. The other figure remained in the shadows. The camera zoomed in on their hands. A briefcase was exchanged. The metal clasps unlocked, revealing stacks of cash neatly arranged inside. The unknown man nodded, snapped the case shut, and disappeared into the night. Sarah's stomach twisted. What was Hale buying? Or who was he paying off? The video cut to black. Then a robotic voice played over the empty screen. This is bigger than you think. If you want the truth, keep digging. But be careful. They are watching. Sarah shivered. She had exposed corruption before, but this felt different. It wasn't just dirty politics or business fraud. This was deeper. More dangerous. She needed help. Calling in a favor. Sarah grabbed her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in months. The line rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Sarah? It's late. Mark, I need a favor. A sigh. Let me guess. Trouble? More than I can handle alone. Mark had been her go-to tech expert back when she worked for the Fairview Chronicle. A hacker at heart, he had cracked open more encrypted files than she could count. But he had walked away from this life. Too many close calls. Tell me, he said, his tone serious. She explained everything, the tip, the warehouse, the video, and the encrypted files. When she finished, silence hung between them. Then Mark exhaled sharply. You're playing with fire. Sarah glanced at the flash drive. I know. He was quiet for a moment. Then, send me the files. Relief flooded through her. Thanks, Mark. Don't thank me yet. Just stay put. Don't do anything stupid until I call back. Sarah ended the call, attached the files to an encrypted email, and hit send. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. Something told her that whatever Mark found, it wouldn't be good. A warning too late. An hour passed. Sarah paced her apartment, restless. Her phone buzzed. Mark, she picked up immediately. What did you find? Mark's voice was sharp. You need to listen to me, Sarah. Whoever sent you this, whoever made that video, knew exactly what they were doing. Sarah frowned. What do you mean? These files aren't just encrypted. They were hidden in layers of false data. Someone went to extreme lengths to keep them secret. And the deeper I go, the worse it gets. Sarah's pulse quickened. How bad? Mark hesitated. Some of these files contain government-level encryption. This isn't just corporate corruption. It's something bigger. And Sarah... Someone else is already inside these files. Her breath caught. What? I traced the encryption logs. Someone tried accessing this data before you got it. And they're watching for anyone who does. They know you have it. A chill ran down her spine. Then, a noise outside. A car engine idling. Sarah's stomach clenched. She crept to the window and peered through the blinds. A black SUV parked across the street, headlights off. No movement inside. Her mouth went dry. "They found me," she whispered. Mark cursed. "Get out, now." Sarah didn't hesitate. She grabbed her laptop, the flash drive, and her jacket. She stuffed everything into her bag and slipped out the back door, heart hammering. She needed a safe place to figure out her next move. Because one thing was clear. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. This was a conspiracy. And she was in the middle of it. Hunted in the shadows. Sarah sipped her coffee, the warmth doing little to calm her nerves. She hadn't slept. The events of the night before played on a loop in her mind. The abandoned warehouse, the trembling man pressing a flash drive into her hands, the black SUV idling on the street, waiting, watching. Now in the soft morning light streaming through her window, she told herself she was being paranoid. Maybe the SUV had just been a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't following her. Then she saw it. A black car parked across the street. Her stomach clenched. Had it been there all night, or had it just arrived? She set her coffee down carefully, her mind racing. She scanned the car. Tinted windows, no movement, no driver stepping out. Every instinct screamed at her. Leave. Now. Sarah had two choices. Ignore it and hope for the best, or get out before it was too late. She went with the latter. In one swift motion, she grabbed her backpack, the flash drive, laptop bat, and a change of clothes already inside. She threw on a hoodie, pulled the hood over her head, and slipped out the back door. The alley behind her apartment led to a side street where she had parked her car the night before. She moved quickly, checking over her shoulder, making sure no one was following. The moment she reached her car, she climbed inside, locked the doors, and started the engine. She needed to get out of there. Fast. The chase begins. Sarah pulled onto the road, her fingers gripping the wheel. At first, everything seemed normal. The hum of morning traffic, pedestrians heading to work, the occasional honk from impatient drivers. Then, she checked her rearview mirror. The black car was there. Sarah's pulse spiked. Coincidence? Maybe. She changed lanes. The car followed. Her throat tightened. She turned at the next intersection. The car stayed behind her. A cold wave of adrenaline crashed through her veins. She was being followed. She couldn't go to her apartment, couldn't lead them to Mark. She needed to lose them. With a sharp breath, Sarah made a sudden right turn down a narrow alley. Trash bins lined the sides, a chain-link fence at the far end. A dead end, unless she got through fast enough. She slammed the brakes, threw the car into reverse, and spun the wheel hard. The black car skidded past the alley, too slow to react. She floored it in the opposite direction. Taking a sharp left down a side street, her heart pounded. A quick glance in the mirror, they were gone. She exhaled shakily, forcing herself to keep calm, but it wasn't over. She knew that now. A warning too late. Her phone buzzed. A blocked number. Sarah hesitated, then answered, a deep voice, calm, measured, cold. "You should stop digging, Sarah, for your own good." Her breath caught in her throat. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "Turn around now, walk away. This is your only warning." Click. The line went dead. Sarah stared at her phone, her grip tightening. A warning. Not a threat, yet. They were watching. They knew she had the flash drive. And now, she knew. This wasn't just a chase. She was being hunted, and there was no turning back. Reaching the safe house, Sarah drove for miles, doubling back, changing lanes, making sure no one was tailing her. Every few minutes, she checked her mirrors. No black car, no SUV. Finally, she reached the outskirts of town, turning onto a dirt road surrounded by thick woods. The trees stretched endlessly, swallowing the sunlight, casting long, eerie shadows. At the end of the road stood a run-down cabin, half hidden among the trees. Mark's safe house. She parked behind the trees, out of sight, and approached the door. She knocked twice, then 3 times, a code they had set years ago. The door swung open almost immediately. Mark stood there, his eyes scanning the road behind her. "You were followed?" "Not anymore." He let her in, locking the door behind her. Inside, the cabin smelled of old wood and dust. A single lamp flickered in the corner, casting a dim light over the room. Sarah dropped her bag on the table. "They called me," she said. Mark's expression darkened. "What did they say?" "To stop digging." His jaw clenched. "Then we're getting close." Sarah sat down, rubbing her temples. "The man at the warehouse, he was terrified. He gave me this before he ran." She pulled out the flash drive. Mark took it, plugging it into his laptop. The screen flickered to life, loading a single folder labeled Project Helix Confidential. Mark clicked it open. Inside were files upon files, government contracts, private military funding, bank transactions leading to offshore accounts. Sarah skimmed through the documents, her eyes widening. "This isn't just fraud," she whispered. "This is a cover-up." Then she saw it. A list of names. Her heart stopped. Some names were crossed out. The whistleblower was on the list, and at the very bottom, her name. She swallowed hard. "They're not just trying to hide this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're eliminating people." Mark clicked on a video file. The screen showed a dimly lit office, time-stamped 2 weeks ago. Several men sat around a table. One of them was familiar, Senator Alan Kendrick. Sarah leaned closer. Kendrick's voice was sharp. "We need this to stay contained. No leaks, no loose ends. If anyone finds out, we're all dead." Another man, wearing a corporate suit, nodded. "The journalist is already taken care of. The whistleblower is next." Sarah's blood turned to ice. They weren't just covering up corruption. They were killing people to protect it. She turned to Mark. "They know I have this." His face was grim. "Then we have to move. Now." Sarah stood, shoving her laptop into her bag. A loud noise outside, a car door slamming. Her heart stopped. Mark grabbed a pistol from the drawer. "They found us." Sarah reached for her knife. Footsteps approached. Then, a knock. 2 slow, deliberate knocks. The air was thick with tension. Sarah met Mark's gaze. No way out, nowhere to run. Mark tightened his grip on the gun. Sarah took a deep breath. The door handle turned, and then the door burst open. A dark discovery. The dim glow of the computer screen flickered against the walls of Mark's hidden workspace, casting long shadows that mirrored the unease growing between them. Sarah sat rigidly in the worn-out chair, her fingers gripping the armrests as if holding on for dear life. Across from her, Mark was hunched over his laptop, typing furiously. The files from the flash drive had taken hours to decrypt, and the deeper they went, the worse it got. "This is bigger than I thought," Mark muttered, his voice laced with disbelief. "This isn't just corruption. This is an entire network." Sarah leaned in, her pulse racing. "What do you mean?" Mark clicked on a folder labeled Confidential Priority. The screen was suddenly flooded with documents, emails, bank transactions, and surveillance footage. All tied to one name, Richard Hale. Sarah inhaled sharply. Richard Hale was a man of power, a respected businessman, a public figure known for his philanthropy. But beneath the carefully crafted image, the truth was far more sinister. The files revealed evidence of money laundering, illegal arms deals, human trafficking, and political bribery. But it wasn't just Hale. Sarah scrolled through the names listed. Police officers, judges, government officials, even senators. A tangled web of corruption stretching into the highest levels of authority. Her stomach twisted. This isn't just a crime ring. This is control, manipulation. Mark nodded grimly. They're shaping elections, buying off law enforcement, silencing anyone who gets too close. Sarah clenched her fists. This was more than just a story. This was a war, and she had just stepped into the front lines. The threat becomes real. As Sarah processed the horrifying scale of what she had uncovered, a sudden notification flashed on Mark's screen. "Unauthorized access detected." Sarah stiffened. "What is that?" Mark's expression darkened. "Someone's trying to get into my system." His fingers flew across the keyboard, launching countermeasures. The screen was a blur of coding sequences and encryption battles. Seconds later, another alert. "Security breach. Tracing location." Sarah, the air grew heavy. "Mark, tell me they can't find us." Mark's face was set in stone. His silence was answer enough. Then, a sharp knock at the door. Loud, forceful, insistent. The knock came again, harder, more urgent. Sarah's breath caught. A voice from the other side. "Open the door. Now." Her body went rigid. The tone wasn't a request, it was a demand. Mark moved fast. He grabbed a burner phone and thrust it into her hands. "Take this. Get out. Now." Sarah stared at him. "I'm not leaving you." Mark's eyes burned with urgency. "You don't have a choice." The knocking turned to pounding. Then, a sudden crash. The front door splintered open. They were inside. A desperate escape. Sarah bolted. She sprinted through the narrow back exit, barely slipping into the alley as heavy footsteps stormed inside the building behind her. Gunshots. She flinched, heart hammering as she ran blindly into the night. The cold air stung her lungs, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Mark had bought her time. Now she had to use it. She clutched the burner phone in her trembling hand and yanked out the scrap of paper he had given her. An address. No name. No explanation. Just an address. She didn't hesitate. She needed to get as far away as possible before whoever was after her found her next. Sarah forced herself to keep running. A deadly pursuit. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Sarah kept to the shadows, weaving through empty streets, avoiding security cameras, and making sure no one was following her. But the paranoia was setting in. Every parked car looked suspicious. Every dark alley felt like a trap. She had seen enough in the files to know how people who crossed Richard Hale ended up, and she had no intention of being next. As she reached an intersection, she pulled up the burner phone. No contacts, no messages, no way to trace her back. Smart. She punched in the address. It was on the outskirts of the city, a place she didn't recognize. Her mind raced. Who was she meeting? Could she trust them? She didn't have a choice. Then, headlights appeared behind her, a black car. Her heart stopped. It was the same one from before. They had found her. She turned and started walking faster. The engine revved. She broke into a sprint. The car sped up, a life-or-death gamble. Sarah dashed through a narrow alley, her breath ragged. The car couldn't follow, but she knew they wouldn't stop there. She ran across the next street, barely dodging a passing truck, and darted into an old parking garage. Footsteps followed. They were on foot now, 2 men. She could hear them, quick, deliberate steps, closing in fast. Her mind raced. She needed a plan. Then an old elevator in the corner. She ran inside and hit the button for the top floor. As the doors started to close, the 2 men rounded the corner. One of them lunged, but he was too late. The doors sealed shut. Sarah's chest rose and fell rapidly. She had seconds. The moment the doors slid open, she burst onto the rooftop. The city stretched below her, miles of lights and streets. Nowhere to run. The men were coming. Then, her eyes locked onto an emergency fire escape leading to the building next door. It was a long drop, but it was her only chance. She backed up, took a deep breath, and jumped. Nowhere left to hide. She barely caught the railing, her fingers slipping against the cold metal. A deep pain shot through her arm, but she ignored it, pulling herself up. Behind her, she heard shouting. The men had reached the roof, but she didn't wait to see if they'd jump. She ran. Racing down the fire escape 2 steps at a time, she reached the street and disappeared into the night. She didn't stop until she reached a crowded subway station. Panting, she blended into the rush of people, pushing her way to the farthest platform. Her reflection in the train window showed the truth. Her hair was a mess. Her clothes were torn. She looked hunted. Because she was. But she had made it out, for now. She pulled out the burner phone, heart still pounding. She typed in the address Mark had given her. Her fingers hesitated over the call button. This was it. She hit dial. A voice answered immediately. "You're late." The line went dead. A step into the unknown. The city was eerily quiet as Sarah walked down the empty street, her nerves on edge. Mark's burner phone was still clutched in her palm, the call replaying in her mind. "You're late." No name. No explanation. Just a voice. And now she was following an address she didn't recognize, heading straight into the unknown. Her instincts screamed at her to turn back. But she had come too far for that. She pulled her hood lower and kept moving. Ahead, a neon sign flickered against the damp alley walls. The Black Lantern. Mark's message had led her here. A bar? It didn't seem like the safest place to discuss a massive government conspiracy. But she had no other leads. She stepped inside. The man in the shadows. The atmosphere inside the bar was thick with cigarette smoke and hushed voices. Low jazz played from an old jukebox in the corner, and the scent of whiskey lingered in the air. It wasn't crowded, just a handful of patrons hunched over their drinks, lost in their own worlds. Sarah felt eyes on her the moment she entered. A man behind the counter, mid-40s, rugged, with sharp eyes that scanned her like he already knew who she was, gave a slow nod. "You're late," he said, confirming her worst suspicion. Sarah tensed. "Mark sent me." The man wiped down the counter, motioning for her to sit. "Name's David," he said, lowering his voice. "I used to be a journalist, like you." Sarah hesitated before sitting down. "Used to be?" David gave a dry chuckle. "Let's just say digging too deep comes with consequences." Sarah leaned in. You were investigating Hale? David nodded. Not just him. The entire machine that keeps men like him untouchable. Sarah pulled out the flash drive. I have proof. For the first time, David's expression shifted. Show me. Secrets exposed. David took her to a back room. A dimly lit, cluttered space filled with old computers, stacks of papers, and a large corkboard covered in notes and photographs. It was clear he hadn't stopped investigating. He plugged the flash drive into a heavily modified laptop, his fingers moving across the keyboard. As the files loaded, his face darkened. This is worse than I thought, he muttered. Sarah swallowed hard. How high does it go? David shook his head, scanning documents and videos. All the way to the top. Sarah's pulse quickened. Mark and I thought we were exposing one man, but this is an entire operation. Politicians, law enforcement, corporate executives, they're all in on it. David clenched his jaw. I tried to go public once. They buried the story. Almost buried me too. Sarah exhaled slowly. If we release this, they'll come for us. A chilling silence filled the room. Then, the front door slammed open. The attack. Sarah barely had time to react. Heavy boots stomped against the wooden floor. Voices barked orders. Find her. David's eyes widened. Run, he shouted. Gunfire erupted. Sarah dove behind a table as bullets tore through the walls. Glass shattered. People screamed. David grabbed a pistol from a hidden drawer and fired back. Sarah's heart pounded as she crawled toward the back exit, ducking as more bullets whizzed past. David covered her. Go. Sarah sprinted down the hall, bursting through a metal door into the alley. Then she heard David's gun click empty. She turned back. David was cornered. 3 masked men closed in. One of them raised a gun. Bang! Sarah's stomach twisted. David collapsed. They killed him. She wanted to scream, to fight, but she knew she had no chance. With a sharp inhale, she turned and ran. Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Hunted Sarah sprinted through the alley, her breath ragged. They were following her. Heavy footsteps pounded behind her. A car screeched onto the street ahead, blocking her escape. Trapped. Sarah glanced around desperately. Then, her eyes locked onto a fire escape. She climbed. Hands shaking, legs burning, she pulled herself up onto the roof just as her pursuers reached the ladder. She ran across the rooftop, leaping from one building to the next. The men shouted below. Shots rang out. She ducked, barely avoiding a bullet. She couldn't outrun them forever. She needed help. She pulled out Mark's burner phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed the only number programmed into it. Ring. 1 ring. 2. Then, a voice. You're still alive. Good. A faint hope. Sarah gasped for breath. They killed David. I barely made it out. The voice on the other end remained calm. I know. We're watching. Sarah's blood ran cold. Who are you? A pause. Then, your only chance of survival. A new address flashed on her phone screen. Get there. Fast. The call cut off. Sarah stared at the address. She didn't trust them. She didn't trust anyone anymore. But she had no choice. Tucking the phone away, she took one last look over the edge of the rooftop. The masked men were still searching for her. She turned and disappeared into the night. Sarah's lungs burned as she sprinted through the underground tunnel, David close behind her. The sound of gunfire echoed from the bar above, followed by hurried footsteps. They didn't have much time. The tunnel was damp, the air thick with the scent of earth and decay, but it was their only way out. Faster, David urged, glancing over his shoulder. They won't stop until we're dead. Sarah didn't need the reminder. She gritted her teeth, focusing on the sliver of light ahead. The tunnel opened into a deserted alleyway. Without hesitation, they burst out into the night. David led her through the maze-like streets of the city, ducking behind dumpsters and abandoned cars to avoid detection. The enemy was closing in. Their only chance was to go public before it was too late. A desperate plan. They reached a run-down warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Inside, David revealed a hidden underground broadcasting station, his personal safe house. Old monitors flickered, showing live news feeds and encrypted messages scrolling across the screens. This is our only shot, he said, booting up the system. We expose everything now, or we die in the dark. Sarah took a deep breath, inserting the flash drive into the main computer. The files loaded. Images, documents, and videos flashed across the screen. Proof of Richard Hale's empire built on bribery, trafficking, and blackmail. A live news feed showed Hale addressing the press, denying all allegations. Sarah clenched her fists. Not for long. David nodded. We're hijacking a national news broadcast. If we send this data to trusted journalists, it could be buried. But if we air it live, the whole country sees it at once. Let's do it. Breaking the silence, David's fingers flew over the keyboard, bypassing firewalls and security systems. The monitors flashed red. They're trying to shut us out, he muttered. They know we're here. Sarah's heart pounded. Then we don't have much time. The system beeped. We're in. Going live in 5, 4, 3. The camera activated, and Sarah stared into the lens. My name is Sarah Carter, and what you're about to see is the truth they tried to bury. Richard Hale is not the man he pretends to be. He is the mastermind of an empire built on corruption, crime, and blood money, and we have the proof. David pushed a button, and the evidence flooded the airwaves. Footage of secret deals, bribery, and violence played across screens worldwide. Social media exploded. Hashtags about Hale's crimes trended within minutes. But before Sarah could take a breath, the door burst open. A final confrontation. Armed men stormed in. Sarah barely had time to react before they dragged David away. A tall, cold-eyed man stepped forward, a gun in his hand. You should have walked away, he said, his voice like ice. Now it's too late. Sarah raised her chin. The world knows the truth. You can't stop it now, he smirked. Maybe not, but I can stop you. A gunshot rang out, but it wasn't his. David had broken free, knocking one of the guards aside. He fired again, and the room erupted into chaos. Sarah lunged for cover as bullets tore through equipment. Sparks flew, screens shattered. Then, sirens. Loud, growing closer. David grabbed Sarah's hand. We need to move. They sprinted out the back door, just as police stormed the building. Sarah gasped for breath as she watched the chaos unfold. Officers tackled the gunmen. One by one, they were taken down. And then, Richard Hale himself was dragged into the street in handcuffs, his face pale with shock. The truth had won. The aftermath days later, Sarah sat at a cafe, staring at the news. Headlines screamed of Hale's downfall. Investigations had begun. Justice was finally catching up. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated before answering. A familiar voice, low and cryptic. You did well, Sarah, but this is just the beginning. The line went dead. Sarah smirked. Another story was waiting to be told.